Trump may have just made the most catastrophic mistake of the entire trade war, and China saw it coming from a mile away. While he throws threats like darts in every direction, Beijing hasn't flinched. They've studied him, waited, and now they've outmaneuvered him. America's closest allies, Canada, Europe, Japan, are stunned, furious, and breaking ranks. The G7 is cracking, and Trump's strategy, if there ever was one, is unraveling in real time. Just days ago, he boasted about slapping Chinese imports with tariffs as high as 55%, projecting strength and control. But at the 11th hour, when both sides were supposed to meet and sign a deal, China abruptly walked away. Not a flinch, not a hesitation, just a quiet, calculated retreat. Insiders revealed China isn't even taking the US seriously anymore. And Washington's response? Silence. They quietly delayed the talks, postponed the tariffs, because deep down they know this isn't a war they can win without China. Instead of recalibrating, Trump pivoted to punishing America's own allies. Canada got hit with 35% tariffs, Switzerland with 39%. Even Taiwan, America's most vital chip supplier, was slammed with 20%. Friends punished, rivals untouched. This isn't strategy. This is chaos. The result? Trade disrupted. Prices rising. US companies bleeding. Long-standing partnerships fractured. The nations that once stood united with America now stand bewildered, betrayed. Meanwhile, China watches silently, patiently, letting the US self-destruct. No angry speeches, no emotional outbursts, just cold strategic silence. Inflation ticks upward. Jobs hang in the balance. Supply chains begin to buckle. The G7? In shambles. And the question echoes louder every day, who's really in control here? In just a few days, the US has dismantled years of painstaking global trade diplomacy, pretending this unraveling was always part of the plan. Tariffs are back and they're biting deep. But the pain? It's hitting America's allies hardest. Europe was blindsided by a 15% tariff under the flimsy excuse of resetting trade terms. Nothing fair about it. EU leaders are livid. Canada, left stunned by a 35% blow, was offered no talks, no compromise, no warning. Just brute force. Washington claims Canadian goods are being smuggled. No one believes it. It's not a policy, it's a pretext. And while real businesses suffer, the message is clear. This isn't about protecting American workers. It's about asserting dominance. It's politics disguised as policy. It's pressure dressed as reform. And all the while, China remains quiet, moving with surgical precision. While America lashes out blindly, China is playing an entirely different game. No noise, no panic, just moves. Strategic, deliberate, devastating. Canada begs for relief. Europe demands explanations. But it's China that walks away with a 90-day tariff delay just like that. That alone says everything. It shows who's holding the cards. It reveals who Washington is actually afraid of. Because the truth is, the US doesn't just depend on China for cheap toys or electronics. China is the invisible spine of the American consumer economy. As of 2024, over 16% of all US imports came from China. We're talking smartphones, clothing, medications, essentials. Cut that off and shelves across America would go bare within weeks. Not theory, reality. Walmart itself admitted that nearly 60% of its inventory flows directly from Chinese factories. And Washington knows, if this relationship collapses, the fallout won't just be economic pain. It'll be something far worse. Because China's leverage doesn't end with consumer goods. Their real weapon? Rare earth elements, materials essential for electric vehicles, military jets, MRI machines, smartphones, satellite systems. China controls nearly 70% of global production. And they've already hinted, access could be revoked. The last time they did that, to Japan in 2010, the entire tech sector there nearly imploded. If they pull that trigger on the US now, it won't be a disruption. It'll be a blackout. And while the US punishes allies and struggles to explain its erratic trade moves, China is attacking on another front, one far more dangerous: American debt. In 2024, China began unloading US Treasury bonds, over $100 billion worth. Quietly, strategically, every sale chips away at the US economy's foundation. Why does it matter? Because the US runs on debt, the dollar's strength, the government's borrowing power, Wall Street's stability. All of it depends on the world's trust in American bonds. When a player as big as China walks away, interest rates spike. Loans become more expensive. Mortgages, credit, business financing, everything. Each sale is more than numbers. It's a message, a warning. And Washington hears it. Loud and clear. Push too hard, and the retaliation won't come in words. It will come in dollars. In collapsing markets. In rising interest rates. In vanishing investor confidence. For decades, the US believed its dominance was untouchable. That the dollar was sacred. That no one, no rival, no alliance could challenge the supremacy of American finance. That illusion is gone. The ground is shifting. The impact is already being felt. This is not speculation. This is happening. In June 2025, China dumped U.S. Treasuries on a historic scale. Bond yields soared. Markets trembled. The Federal Reserve was forced into emergency action. Liquidity injections, stopgaps, interventions. But even that had consequences. Money drained from other sectors. The Dow Jones cratered, over 600 points in a single session. Confidence cracked. And suddenly the trade war wasn't about trade anymore. It had become something else entirely. A financial confrontation. A high-stakes, zero-sum battle playing out in markets, in currencies, in global trust. And this time, the U.S. isn't holding all the cards. China's not reacting. China is orchestrating. Every move is measured, every silence calculated. While Trump rattles sabers, China moves in shadows, with precision, with leverage, and with the quiet understanding that sometimes, the loudest blow is the one you never see coming. China doesn't need to shout. It doesn't posture, it doesn't threaten, and it doesn't deliver speeches filled with bluster. It simply acts, and that's enough. With quiet precision, it moves pieces on the global board, and markets thousands of miles away tremble. Wall Street doesn't wait for an official statement. The signal is in the silence. But this isn't just about stocks and currency swaps. The deeper shift is tectonic. The world order that held firm for decades is splintering fast. Look at India. For years, New Delhi walked a tightrope, eager for American technology, trade access, and strategic defense ties. But always careful, always calibrated. Never stepping too far. Never provoking Washington outright. That version of India is gone. In 2025, it's louder, bolder, unapologetically self-interested. Despite months of diplomatic pressure, warnings, and thinly veiled threats from the White House, India is still buying Russian oil. In bulk. Pre-war, it made up just 2% of its supply. Today, it's over a third. That isn't a tweak in trade policy, that's a strategic realignment. A pivot. Washington warned. Sanctions were dangled. Military partnerships were put on notice. India didn't blink. The calculation was brutally logical. Cheap oil keeps factories humming, cars moving, inflation low, and voters stable. Why should Delhi sacrifice economic security for vague promises or performative alliances? The message is clear. India is not a pawn. It's playing its own game now. And if India is asserting independence, China is rewriting the rules entirely. Beijing has dropped the pretense. It trades with Russia and Iran in open defiance of American sanctions. In the first half of 2025 alone, its imports from Russia have soared, driven by energy, metals, and strategic commodities. But trade is just the beginning. Quietly, methodically, China is dismantling the dollar's dominance. One deal at a time, it is introducing the yuan as an alternative currency in global contracts. Oil, minerals, weapons, bought and sold without touching a single American dollar. Chinese tankers still arrive in Iranian ports. Chinese engineers still sign contracts with blacklisted companies. And all of it unfolds under the watchful eye of Washington, which threatens but does not act, warns but is not heeded. The idea of American leverage is evaporating. China isn't just building an economy. It's building a parallel global system, a structure of finance, diplomacy, and trade in which U.S. influence no longer applies. And here's the paradox. The harder Trump pushes, the more isolated the United States becomes. His policies meant to pressure Beijing are backfiring. Allies are drifting. Rivals are consolidating. Europe is losing patience, not just with the tariffs, but with the tone, the arrogance, the assumption that loyalty must come with a cost. Canada, once America's quiet and dependable neighbor, is reeling. Hit with 35% tariffs, its core industries are crumbling. Forestry is bleeding jobs. Dairy farms are folding. Car manufacturers are frozen in uncertainty. Exports to the U.S. are in freefall. And this isn't a blip, it's structural damage. Recovery won't be fast. It may not even be possible. As America tightens its grip, the world slips away. China is stepping in, signing new trade deals, expanding influence in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. One agreement at a time, it is becoming the default partner for much of the global South. While Washington lectures, Beijing invests. While America punishes, China courts. This isn't theory. It's happening now, and it poses a question no one in Washington seems ready to answer. Does the United States even recognize the trap it has walked into? Trump's strategy was built on confrontation, but confrontation without allies is just isolation. Look at the G7. Once a show of strength, now it's a table of nervous partners trying to avoid becoming the next target. The tariff list reads like a ransom note. Canada 35%, Taiwan 20%, Thailand 19%, Switzerland 39%. There's no strategy, only punishment. No logic, only leverage. The message is blunt, pay or suffer. Even America's closest allies are footing the bill, twice. First by financing U.S. debt through bond purchases, and then again when their industries are battered by tariffs. And while America drives wedges, BRICS is quietly offering bridges. Stability, Fairness. Predictability. The very things Washington once provided, BRICS is now offering to nations left burned and bitter. Infrastructure is being built. Energy corridors are forming. Trade is expanding. The global realignment that used to seem far off is now racing forward. India, China, Brazil, Indonesia. These are not just emerging economies. They are emerging centers of power. Trump's tariffs didn't isolate China, they fortified it. Global trade isn't ending. It's rerouting. And Beijing sits squarely at the center. Meanwhile, inside America, the chaos is visceral. Trump's new customs regime is a maze of contradictions. Exporters describe it as Kafkaesque, a tax code written mid-panic, enforced by whim. One wrong form. One incorrect port. One misfiled code. A 40% penalty. Exceptions are given, then revoked. Guidance changes daily. No business can plan under this. Some don't even try anymore. They're leaving. Not because they want to, but because they have to. Because you can't build factories or trade across borders when the rules vanish overnight. On the surface, America still looks powerful, its military unmatched, its economy immense. But beneath that surface, trust is eroding. Relationships are fraying. Influence is slipping. The US isn't losing power because someone took it. It's losing it because it gave it away. Because it built walls instead of alliances. Issued threats instead of strategy. Substituted dominance for leadership. This is not abstract. It's not some academic forecast. It's happening now. The post-war order that defined the 20th century is in freefall. A new architecture is rising, and America is not the architect. It's not leading. It's reacting. Lashing out. Cornering itself. So the only question that matters is this: will Washington wake up in time? Will it see the fractures before the foundation collapses completely? Will it reverse course, rebuild alliances, and reclaim leadership? Or will it double down, fighting wars it can't win, sacrificing friends it can't afford to lose, and empowering the very forces it set out to contain? The answers aren't written yet. But the clock is ticking. The world is moving. And the game has already changed. If you want to follow this transformation, not through headlines, but through the moves happening behind them, stay tuned. Because this story isn't ending. It's accelerating. And we're only at the beginning.